What is up, family? Your dad is finally back home. MLB baseball season is done. We are finished with that. That was quite a lot of fun. Have some great videos, had some great drafts. Obviously, the first day of MLB can be disappointing because you think all your best ball teams are down the drain, but it is a long season. They don't have 160 games for no reason. So it's going to be a long MLB sweat. But excited for it. Glad that baseball is back and you can watch something. Best ball teams throughout the summer actually do something. But we are actually back home. It's fantasy football dad, and he is back doing fantasy football drafts, what he knows best. And he's here to share some insight. I don't know why I'm talking in third person, but I'm here to share some insight with you on this season's potential sleepers, some busts, the rookies that are coming out, because we're doing some best ball drafts on Underdog pre-draft. So, you have no idea where these rookies are going to end up. Similar situations like last year. I had some Najee Harris, and then Hampton shows up, and then Najee gets injured. So all those shares of Najee really went down the drain. But yeah, potentially, where is Jeremiah Love, the superstar running back, going to end up? Some people say Tennessee going in the fourth overall, but then there's Washington and possibly the Giants who have Cam Scatterboo. So what do we know? We have no idea what's going to happen, obviously, until the draft, and that's going to give you a clearer picture. And then obviously there are still some old marquee free agents. No, I guess not marquee. They probably would have been marquee about 4 years ago. But some veterans kicking around, guys like Debo, guys like Brandon Ayuk, guys like Keenan Allen. Najee Harris obviously is still kicking around. So those guys are probably going to find a home on a team eventually. Once the draft plays out, that's what usually happens. If teams are able to address the need, or they find that after rookie minicamp and the mini camps that they don't really have what they're looking for with the rookies, then they'll probably go back to and maybe sign a vet to kind of come in and give some of the rookies some time to kind of get established and also develop. Similar to last year when the Chargers took Trey Harris, everyone got excited, was grabbing him as a third wide receiver, and the Chargers go and sign Keenan Allen later in the season. So potentially could be a big risk when it comes to the vets, but like I said, the ones that we have right now are a little bit past their prime. Debo, even though he's a good yak guy, he's obviously older now and just had an okay season last year. Obviously, they're dealing with a lot of injuries in Washington with Jaden Daniels and the offense as a whole. Keenan Allen obviously came out, had a strong start to the season, then kind of fizzled out. So obviously age sometimes catches up to those kind of players, and that's probably. And then Najee Harris coming off an Achilles injury. We're not sure where he's going to end up. He's been visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, we know that Kubiak has joined, that is the head coach for the Raiders, and he employed a duo in Seattle that obviously won the Super Bowl. So he probably thinks he knows what he's doing. So he's probably looking at, and he's kind of come out and said he wants to get another experienced running back to kind of pair up with Ashton Genty. So it'd be interesting to see who he brings on, whether it be somebody in the draft. I don't think so, but I think it probably will be a Najee, someone like that, to come in and take some reps away from Ashton Genty, especially with Kubiak being a coach that emphasizes the run. He's going to want to have multiple options available to him. So, but with that, let's get started here. We are in this Underdog $10 big board draft. It is pick number 4 here. I haven't drafted many teams yet. I've been kind of playing around with the ADP. Obviously, ADP shifts a lot after free agency, and then obviously, major things that happen similar to like Kyler Murray signing with the Vikings. You see Justin Jefferson and Addison's ADP skyrocket. So, Justin Jefferson kind of comes back into being a first round pick. But let's go here. Number 4, Jamar Chase goes. So I will go with my man Puka, who's having some troubles lately. Not sure. I saw it on TMZ the other day. I haven't followed up to see where it's at. I think I was listening to another podcast where they were talking about a lawyer that's come out and said it shouldn't be too bad, or maybe his lawyer was saying that. I don't know if it's a legal opinion or not, and maybe his own lawyer defending him. But let's see what happens with that. Hopefully, it's not anything serious and doesn't end up in a suspension. But if at that number 4 spot, you can't go wrong with Puka, who led the pretty much the NFL in receiving, for most part of the year. But then obviously Jackson Smith and Najigba said, "Hold my beer. I'm going to win a Super Bowl and lead the leagues." And he came back out and had a great season himself. So when you obviously have the first 2 picks in a lot of the best ball drafts I've seen are Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. You can pick your guy on that one. Usually those 2 are usually going 1 and 2, and obviously big situation changes for both of them. Bijan Robinson has a new coach with Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns, and Tyler Allgeier's gone, his backup that was kind of his little thorn in the side, taking away some goal line carries, just being a big nuisance, and he's gone. So now it looks like it is Bijan Robinson's backfield. They just signed Brian Robinson, but we saw, with Christian McCaffrey last year when Brian Robinson was backing him up, he's only going to be coming in to spell Bijan, I'm assuming. I think Kevin Stefanski will be using Bijan as his workhorse. So I think with the excitement of that offense coming in, and then just Bijan being Bijan, number 1 is warranted. And then we obviously know that Jahmyr Gibbs lost his running mate David Montgomery, and so he's going to be the man now. So all those games where David Montgomery was out and Jahmyr Gibbs putting up 20 to 25 fantasy points, that might be the norm. So he's going number 2 now. And then we got Jamar Chase, Puka, and JSN kind of fitting to that 3-4-5 spot. It changes every time. Some people like Puka at 3, some people like Chase, some people like JSN. But I prefer Chase, Puka, and then JSN. But sorry, with all that talk, it's coming up here pretty quick here on top of who you're going to take. So Drake London goes. Let me grab some. Let's grab a share of Trey McBride here as your elite tight end. Kind of helps me not have to worry about tight end for a while here. And we obviously saw what Trey McBride can do when he has a quarterback that recognizes that he has the best tight end in football. And, Brock Bowers might have something to say about that. But you saw what happened, right? Brissett comes in and makes Trey McBride his guy and just force feeds him the ball. And that ended up being a great season of Trey McBride. But sorry, let me make my next pick. And I'm going to go with Travis Etienne as my next one, and we'll talk about the picks. But we obviously saw that Trey McBride dominated going into the second half of the season with Jacoby Brissett as his quarterback. Nothing's truly changed in Arizona. Yeah, they do have a new coach. Jacoby is still there, and he's competing with Gardner Minshew as the only other competition, unless they take a rookie quarterback. But at this stage of the game, the rookie quarterback that's obviously predicted to go first is Mendoza, and he's going to the Raiders for sure. The second one is Ty Simpson. I'm not sure if the Cardinals will take him, and even if they do, I don't think Ty Simpson's ready to play yet. So it could be another year of Jacoby or Gardner Minshew. I'm assuming it's going to be Jacoby. He wins out for sure. And then you got another year of Jacoby to Trey McBride, and you got to look at it in a sense that obviously the position is tight end, but Trey McBride is really a wide receiver 1. So it's really taking a wide receiver 1 that late in the second round of the draft. I'll take it every time. Like I said, the position of tight end can be kind of finicky. You never know, who you're going to get, I guess. To quote my man, Forever Forrest Gump, a very half-ass quote I just made there. But you just never know what you're going to get if you try to wait too long. After Harold Fannin, you get Tyler Kraft, who's coming back from injury, so don't know where his timeline is. There's Isaiah Likely that goes later in the draft. Obviously, it's a new situation with the Giants. Where does he fit in? He is one of John Harbaugh's guys. And they lost Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot. So is he playing in the slot? Because that's where he kind of played in Baltimore as well. So that's somebody that you can ideally look at. But for me, Trey McBride just helps me not have to worry about the position for a while, to take a couple of backups just to kind of fill out my best ball roster. But take him and forget about it. Obviously, we know with Puka, it's Puka is Puka. And then I took Travis Etienne. I took Travis Etienne because he's Kellen Moore, Kellen Moore's guy. Kellen Moore picked him out as his running back. They signed him up from free agency. We obviously kind of associate Alvin Kamara with the Saints because he's been there for so long, but it looks like Etienne is ready to take over. And Kellen Moore, I think, is just an underrated coach in terms of offensive abilities, about understanding offenses and how to do that. And we saw what he did with Barkley in Philly when he made Barkley his guy. None of this bullshit, 2 RBs, 3 RBs. Etienne I think is going to run the show in the Saints, and it's an ascending team. Like I said, they got better in the second half of the season once they made the quarterback change to Tyler Shuck. So I'm assuming that they're going to be a lot better this year as well. We are back up here, and I'm going to grab, I can go with Devontae Adams to kind of make a LA Rams stack, but I'm going to try to switch it up a bit, and let's get my man Mike Evans. The old man has joined forces. That's the note. Joined forces with Shanahan, and it's going to be exciting to see. First of all, Mike Evans in a new uniform. That's going to be too different. At least it's a red uniform, so it won't be too hard to kind of distinguish. But at the same time, he is in a different uniform. He's going to be going over the San Francisco 49ers, who have lost George Kittle to injury. Not sure when he's going to be coming back. Juwan Jennings is gone. And so far they have Ricky Pearsall, Christian Kirk, and Mike Evans. I like Mike Evans to be fed the ball, and I think it's a great fit for him in that offense. So I'm excited to kind of grab some Mike Evans here as my second wide receiver. And we're coming around again pretty quick here. And I'm probably going to go with running back, and I like the value. Let's go with Scatterboo. I'm taking a big flyer on here and hoping that Jeremiah Love does not end up on the Giants, and it is Scatterboo that is still in charge of that running room. Obviously, he has Tyrone Tracy in the back and as a backup. But we saw what Scatterboo can do when he got the opportunity, and that definitely interests me, especially with John Harbaugh there, who prefers to run the ball. And I think obviously a lot of change going on. I'm not excited about Matt Nagy as its offensive coordinator. I don't think he's that good. I think it's obviously Andy Reid that did a lot of the heavy lifting in KC, and we saw Nagy with the Bears, and it was a freaking shit show, and he got fired. So obviously I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be John telling Nagy to shut the fuck up and run the ball. So I think Scatterboo. I'm hoping that Jeremiah Loves goes to Tennessee at number 4, and that Scatterboo is the man. But I've heard rumblings that Jeremiah Love could possibly go to the Giants if Tennessee skips him at 4. So hopefully that's not the case, but I definitely like taking Scatterboo. Obviously he runs pretty reckless, so that's always the concern. But hoping that this year can be a little bit more better this year, obviously with Jackson Dart, and they can kind of keep it a little bit better. I think John Harbaugh will be a good way to kind of, a good influence in the locker room to kind of explain, hey, listen up, you guys aren't the Bash Brothers or the Mighty Ducks or whatever you guys are, right? Keep it simple, put your head down, and just don't go in too hard. Take your yards, you get them, and fall down. No need to be playing heroes. Just like hoping, like I said, a lot of things have to work out for that. But if Scatterboo can take over that backfield and there's no competition, we should be good. Let's get into the next one here. We're going to come up pretty quick. This draft's going by quick, or maybe I'm just talking too much. That's probably a mixture of both. So let's talk. I like Makai Lemon. I like Jordan Tyson. Looks like I'll probably be taking a rookie here. So it looks like the wide receiver rookies are a little bit more favored this year. compared to the yeah, let's take Jordan Tyson. So yeah, last year was all the hype about the running backs. It was running backs this, running back that. We saw Hampton, we saw my God, what is wrong with me? How can I not remember the running back for my Patriots, man? I have honestly lost it here. Travion Henderson, like, come on, your dad is honestly getting old here. Travion Henderson. So there's a lot of hype about the running backs. This, and then obviously RJ Harvey, I just went. So this year, the running backs after Jeremiah Love, nothing to write home about. So there's going to be quite a bit of onus on the wide receivers who are looking pretty good here. Let me make my pick here, and then we'll go on. So I took Ricky Pearsall. Not the most exciting pick. I like Michael Wilson, but at the same time, Marvin Harrison being back, if he's back, is kind of a thorn in your side as well. I don't mind Addison. That's somebody I probably could have targeted as well. I'm taking Pearsall because I'm going to try to look to see if I can build a San Francisco 49ers stack. Pearsall, the man cannot stay healthy, whether it means getting shot or getting hurt on the football field. The guy cannot stay healthy, but I'm hoping this year he can, because I think he'll have a slot role. Obviously, Christian Kirk is there. Not sure how he fits in. Obviously, Kirk is normally a slot wide receiver, but I'm hoping that Ricky Pearsall has, he's played with Brock Purdy quite a bit, and now maybe Mike Evans opens him up a little bit more. So I'm hoping that, kind of make a little bit of a 49er stack with Evans and Pearsall. So, so I just finished talking about Scadaboo, and then I took Mike Evans. Obviously, the change in scenery and going into the 49ers with the offensive coach should help quite a bit. Then we got Jordan Tyson. So he's one of the 3 rookies I was talking about that are projected to go in the first round, possibly wide receivers. We got him, and we got Cardinal Tate, and we got Mekhi Lemon. So Jordan Tyson, pretty exciting prospect. Obviously, a lot of risk. He's had some injury history throughout college. So that is my biggest, fear with him. But if he ends up in New Orleans, there's other spots. Hopefully not Cleveland, but maybe Cleveland. But wherever he's going to go, I think he's going to be either pretty involved in the offense. So I think taking Jordan Tyson around ADP at 69 is hopefully works out. So I'm going to be coming up here pretty quick. But yeah, so far we have a build of 2 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. I'll make my pick here, and then we'll kind of go over my team so far. So let's take Brock Purdy to kind of pair up as our stack when I talked about Mike Evans and Ricky Pearsall. So let's take Brock Purdy as our first quarterback off the board. And it's kind of interesting on where we want to go next. The running backs, nothing really exciting here. We got Dobbins if we think that he's going to return to relevancy as relevant in Denver again. But the man just got to stay healthy. He was actually smashing quite well last year, but then just got injured, and that ended that. Then we have Kyle Monangai, who could possibly be obviously the 1-2 punch, similar to Swift. So I don't think Dobbins and Monangai are very similar, but Dobbins goes, so that dream is gone. And Monangai's gone. So we can go 2 ways. We can either go wide receiver. I got Wan'Dale Robinson. Just kind of looking at what's later on. Let's take the rookie, Jadarian Price. So he is, I guess, the second most hyped running back after Jeremiah Love. So we got Price. who could potentially end up in a couple of spots. There's still some, they're saying Washington might need a running back, possibly the Giants. So let's take Jadarian Price, but I don't think he's going to go in the first 10. I don't know if he's going to go in the first round. I think he's probably a day 2 pick. So let's go with Jadarian Price as our third running back. So yeah, I took Brock Purdy as my quarterback, and that's really just to stack him with Mike Evans and Ricky Pearsall, looking at maybe a San Francisco build, maybe adding a Kittle later in the draft, or a Jake Tonges, who's going to be filling in for Kittle. So we don't know what Kittle says. He's going to come back by November. So even if we get 7 to 8 games of Tonjes, and we saw what he can do as the primary tight end, receiving tight end, did pretty well. So maybe as a second tight end to Trey McBride, not a bad pick there as well for me. And I don't have to worry about him because he goes really late in the draft. So Tonjes is a good pick. I think if you need as a third running back, because you're going to get some good quality weeks out of him as the main receiving tight end in that offense. And I took Jadarian Price. Like I said, he is the number 2 running back in the rookie class for running back. So I think that there's quite a few spots he could end up. The thing with obviously a rookie running back, so he's probably not projected to go and be a starter right away, depending on the situation. You never know, right? But maybe somebody that can come in the second half of the season, depending on which team he ends up on. And is a best ball winner at the end in the second half. So I like Jadarian Price there. I wasn't really in love with any of the wide receivers around that area. I think I can get some more at the end here, so I'm kind of wait on that one. Looking back at it, probably could have taken Stafford, but that's okay. Let's take a second quarterback. I'm gonna go with Tyler Shuck to kind of get into that New Orleans offense. Obviously, I have Travis Etienne, but I think Etienne's going to be pretty prevalent in the receiving game as well, kind of like Kamara. So I think getting the quarterback that can pass them to get some, and I think Etienne will get some receiving touchdowns in the red zone. So let's take Shuck, and who I think is on the up and up. The Saints have a really good second half. So I think I'm going to take advantage of that and be able to, and I think their strength of schedule so far, they have the easiest strength of schedule for the next season. So that's something that I always pay attention to. Obviously teams change, players change, and it is what it is. But at the same time, I think that's something that you got to look at because more often than not, the teams will have, like New England had a strength of schedule that was very easy, and we saw what Drake May was able to do and the offense was able to do. So that's my pick with New Orleans for this year. Coming back up here again, pretty slight pickings. So I could go with Shakir, or I could go with Denzel Boston, who is another, but let's take Jalen McMillan. And I like Jalen McMillan a little bit earlier than I want to, as a fifth wide receiver, I don't mind him. So obviously Mike Evans is gone, so he's gonna fit in there with Igbuka and Godwin. And I don't think there's really a clear hierarchy of who's gonna get targets. Obviously Igbuka did really well last year when it was just him and Godwin. Well, maybe Godwin was like him and Evans for a bit. There's only 2 of them. But then we saw, Igbuka's, like, as the players were coming back, Mike Evans came back, Chris Godwin was healthy, Jalen McMillan came back, and we saw like the number of targets kind of dwindle down, and he wasn't as dominant as he was in the first half. So with Igbuka, I know everyone likes him, and I think he, I'm not saying he's not talented. He is pretty talented, but I think there are open to there are the other targets that are available, and I think Jalen McMillan, who came back late last year from the injury reserve, he was on the IR for a long time for the most of the season from a neck injury that he sustained in training camp. He came back late in the season, and he had 1 dominant game, and I think out of 2, I think he was only active for 2 or 3 games, including the playoff game, and he had 1 dominant game where he kind of dominated the targets, and these guys were all healthy. So I think Jalen McMillan, now that there's really just Jalen McMillan, Igbuka, and Godwin, I think Jalen McMillan as a 5th wide receiver, not too bad, because like I said, I think it could be one of those weeks where it's a Jalen McMillan game, and I think that's perfect for best ball, so you don't have to try to predict it. In fantasy, it's very hard to predict when it's going to be this one game, but I think it's for best ball, it's perfect because then you can take advantage of the weeks where Jalen does get all the targets and goes off. So liking that pick there. We are back up here, and we have a couple of running backs available that I'll probably go after here. We got Jonah Coleman, we got Krosky Merritt, we got Chris Rodriguez, and do I go with Tyrone Tracy? Do I put all my eggs in one basket with the Giants? Corey Krosky Merritt is another risk. Let's go with Chris Rodriguez. A little bit of a risk there. I looking back at it, I don't know. I don't know. I like the Tyrone Tracy, like putting all together all the Giants. But if, for example, they do take Jeremiah Love, and I'm stuck with two Giants that are just backups, it doesn't really make sense. So let's kind of spread out the risk. I'm taking Chris Rodriguez. It's a little bit of it's a very risky pick. Just given we're really not sure about his role. Obviously Etienne's gone, so now we think that Tootin is the man. But they did sign Chris Rodriguez to a 2-year deal, so it's not like a 1 year and can you get out of here, buddy. It is a 2-year deal, so I'm hoping that it's possibly a situation where they kind of play off of each other, and Chris Rodriguez gets the goal line carries and some of the tougher carries. So and in best ball for Underdog, when it's half PPR, touchdowns are king. So that's definitely one I don't mind there. Let's take Brandon Ayuk here as our 6th wide receiver. We obviously don't know where Brandon Ayuk is going to end up. He's not going to end up on the 49ers, that's for sure. So it's not a 49ers pick. I'm not dumb. So please don't say, Dad, you've lost your marbles. I know they're looking to see if they can maybe get a draft pick out of him, holding on to him, but because they don't have to release him until later this year or in June, or I think that's when they can release him. So they're just holding off for a draft pick. But what they're saying is that he's going to get released, and chances are that he's going to end up in Washington as wide receiver 2. So I like that, especially if Jaden Daniels can stay healthy. He's obviously a game changer. So if Ayuk can kind of end up there, I think it'd be a good situation for him, and I think it's a good situation for your wide receiver 6 in case he does go off. That'd be a good pick. So the other guy I was probably looking at was Juwan Johnson, tight end. He kind of goes around that range as well. I'd rather take if I didn't have Trey McBride, I probably would have taken Juwan Johnson, but and obviously I got Tyler Shuck. But what I'm hoping for is this is a little bit of a draft dream. Is hoping that Jordan Tyson probably ends up on the Saints. They got some mocks going out to him, but they to be honest, they got all the I've seen the mock drafts for a lot of these drafts, and they show Tyson going to the Saints or Tyson going to the Browns and Cardinal Tate going to the Saints and Mekhi Lemon. So we don't know who everyone's going to end up. So let's take a little bit of a chance and hope that Tyson ends up on the Saints, and we got Shuck with Etienne, and it's a little bit of a stack for the New Orleans. So man, this draft is like just I can't even talk. It's going by so quick. We are going to be up here again, and let's see. We got some options here for wide receiver. We also have some running back options. So let's take Emmanuel Wilson. We don't know where he's going to end up in terms of the hierarchy or in the Seattle backfield. There's obviously a lot of moving parts in there. They got him, they got Helani, they got Charbonnet coming back. Maybe they'll draft somebody. So we're not sure Emmanuel Wilson fits in there. But he showed that when he was covering for Josh Jacobs last year in Green Bay, that he's a capable running back. He can catch and he can run. So let's take a chance on him as our 5th running back. Maybe if he gets some early season carries, it is what it is. Let's take those games for best ball. Every week counts. Every week gets you closer to where you need to be come playoff time and try to make the playoffs. So let's take him as our 5th there. And we will now go back to wide receiver. I'm not really liking anybody here. Take a chance to Tank Dell, or let's take Chig. Oh no, Tank Dell go. That's fine. I'll take Tank Dell. There's hope for him coming back. Not sure if he's gonna able to be in one piece. Hopefully he is able to manage to stay healthy. Fingers crossed. But we've seen what Tank Dell can do with obviously his speed. And so how much is that speed is gonna be compromised coming back from two broken legs, or how, I don't know how many broken legs the poor guy's got. But just a wide array of injuries poor that Tank Dell has undergone throughout his career. So we might not end up with anything, but let's take a flyer on him as our seventh wide receiver. I could have gone tight end. There's some good options there. Hawkinson being one, Conco being the other. I'm just gonna wait on tight end because I have Trey McBride. And if he's able to stay healthy, and there's a chance that Trey McBride out pretty much all the weeks will be the highest tight end scoring guy on my team. So let's take some chances on wide receiver if we can get some value. But I took like I said, Tank Dell. It's one of those things. If he's able to come back and be somewhat healthy, then in a sense where he's able to kind of get at least 80 to 90% of what he was before, and I'm not, and that's really hypothetically, and not hypothetically, it's really just praying for that much. But like I said, those injuries could eventually maybe don't give him that boost or that speed that he once had. So yeah, that's the biggest risk, I guess, with him. We're coming back up here 7 picks away, but let's kind of quickly do a quick rundown of my team. I have two quarterbacks right now. I have Brock Purdy, Tyler Shuck. My running backs right now are Travis Etienne, Cam Scatteraboo, Jadarian Price, Chris Rodriguez, Emmanuel Wilson. Not liking the running back room because I think there's a lot of what ifs after Scatteraboo, really. So that's a lot of risk I've taken in my running back room. I'm not really happy with that one. Puka Nacua, Mike Evans, Jordan Tyson, Ricky Pearsall, Jalen McMillan, Brandon Ayuk, and Tank Dell are our 7 wide receivers that we have so far, and Trey McBride is my sole tight end. I will probably look to take a tight end here, and I do like the value that I get with David Njoku, and hoping that he ends up in a favorable spot. So I think that kind of helps. Eli Stowers is somebody as well that kind of blew up the combine, did really well. He's kind of looked at the second tight end of this draft class after Kenyon Sadiq. So that's somebody that could possibly end up in a good situation and also could be relevant as well. Let's take David Njoku. I think he's one of those guys, like I was talking about, vets that might be signed after the draft. I think he's going to be one of those guys. Quite a few spots I could always use a guy like Njoku, like a good receiving tight end, so I'll take him. Christian Kirk goes, surprisingly. I thought Christian Kirk might last, but he doesn't. He goes, so it kind of ends my San Francisco stack. But that's okay. I like Njoku there. So I'm gonna go with Tua. It's a very scary pick. I don't really have any Falcons on my lineup right now, unless I go for maybe a Jahan Dotson as my 8th wide receiver. That's a possibility. But Tua, I think he's not. I feel like he's gonna be in a better situation in Atlanta in the Kevin Stefanski offense that we talked about. It shouldn't be, something in a situation where Stefanski makes it pretty easy, given his offense. It's pretty quick hitters, checkdowns to Bijan, and I think it's a very simple offense. So I think Tua can, not like to say he's going to go off and be Tua again, but I think he can be decent, maybe give you some upside, because he definitely has the weapons. He has Kyle Pitts, he has Drake London, he has Bijan. So there's a lot of weapons out there on that team that, all he has to do is get the ball to them and they'll do the rest. So that still counts as a touchdown, guys. Passing touchdown. If you get it to their hands, and they score 80 yards or 70 yards, whatever that is, it's still some 6 points for Tua. So I don't mind him as my third quarterback, but I took him in the last couple of drafts. I'm still kind of getting used to the ADP, so I do apologize. This draft is probably not the greatest in regards to how to in the roster build up, because I'm still trying to figure out the ADP as to where I can get certain guys that kind of fit into my team or the guys that I like. So maybe that's why some of the picks I made could be kind of questionable, and kind of still working out when I should take my running backs. Obviously, running backs are going pretty fast in this draft in terms of early rounds. I think it's just because of the success running backs have had in the last couple of years, not too many injuries, and obviously guys going off and having those big games late in the season. So I think you gotta play that into account and maybe take 2 or 3 running backs, and hopefully hit on your wide receivers that you take in the first 6-7 rounds. So I have somebody lined up. Let's see if he's going to be available. But I think I'm set on quarterback. I'm not going to take any more now. I got Brock Purdy and Tyler Shuck and Tua Tagovailoa as my quarterbacks. And my running backs right now: Travis Etienne, Cam Scatterbu, Jadarian Price, Chris Rodriguez, and Emmanuel Wilson. Like I said, I think I'm not really happy with my running backs right now. I think there's a lot of what ifs. Obviously, like we talked about with Cam Scatterbu, if Jeremiah Loves comes out there, see you later. But then Jadarian Price, we're not sure where he ends up. It might be his year where he sits for a bit. We never know. And then we got Chris Rodriguez. We're not sure what his role is going to be as well. So a lot of unknowns in my running back room. But let's take Najee Harris here. Let's take Najee Harris as my 6th running back, and let's just hope that he does end up in a good situation in Las Vegas with Clint Kubiak. Obviously, Ashton Genty's the man, no doubting that. But if Kubiak also had Kenneth Walker, and he still put out Zach Charbonnet out there, so I definitely don't mind having taking a chance on a running back, even though Genty's there. But if Najee does end up in the Vegas Raiders, it definitely, he's still going to have a role. It could be a goal line role. It could be just a role decent enough to kind of get some points as my 6th running back. So I'm not breaking the bank for him, but I definitely like to have him on this team, and that kind of works out because I'm going to take Jake Tonges as my 3rd tight end. I know Kittle's going to come back. I know he might be useless. But at the same time, I have Trey McBride, and I'm just hoping to get some good spike games out of Jake Tonges for the first half of the year, because with Cal Kittle, we saw Jake Tonges in the playoffs. He was really good at filling in for Kittle throughout the season, and Kittle is not he's not the poster boy of health. So even if Kittle's just come back, who knows how long he lasts until he gets injured again. So I think Jake Tonges is a great pick, and later in the rounds, especially if you're going to get a few weeks out of him where he's the man on that team. So we currently have a build of 3 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 7 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends. I think I will probably just end up going with best player available, whether it be running back or whether it be a wide receiver. So let's look at the options we have here. We could take a look at Jacoby Lane, who's a rookie. So you got Justice Hill, Dontavian Wicks, Rashad Bateman, a lot of guys we know by name, but they didn't really do much last year. I don't mind Greg Dulcich. He did come on at the end of the year last year for Miami, and it looks like Miami's going to be hurting for pass catchers after they got rid of Waddle. So, somebody that you can kind of look at there as well. Tyquan Thornton, who kind of signed back up with KC, and KC has come out and said that he might have a bigger role. Like, maybe it was a beat writer. Beat writer said he might have a bigger role than we kind of think. He did have those games where he was kind of like, it was him and Worthy and Hollywood Brown for a bit before Rashee Rice came back, and he had like one of those, go deep, Tyquan, I'll hit you from Mahomes. So you never know where if he's the wide receiver 3 now, because I think Juju's gone, Hollywood Brown's obviously gone, and I think this is Worthy, Rice, and him so far. So I think definitely somebody that you can look at. Tyquan Thornton, don't sleep on him. Tutu Atwell is there as well, but I think I'm gonna take Jahan Dotson because I do have Tua, so I'll just kind of at this stage of the game, like really, if I go with Jahan Dotson or I go with the other guys, they're all kind of the same. So let's go with him. Yeah, none of the other guys really like you can go with like a Jacoby Lane as a rookie, but you know, um, rookies are scary, man. Okay. Uh, even for wide receivers, like I said, like this draft class is not very exciting, so I'm not sure what you're gonna get out of them. But at the same time, I think it's definitely somebody that you got to look at. If we, the first few picks I think are okay, but after that it gets kind of dicey with what kind of impact they're gonna have on the league, especially their first year. So, oh wow, I lost Dotson. Okay. Let's go Jacoby Lane then. Let's take a rookie. Um, let's see where he ends up. Let's see if I can slide a Tyquan Thornton in there. No, I got the Jacoby Lane. So we got Jacoby Lane as our last pick. But this draft goes by quick. I think I got to get used to that 20-second clock. It goes by really quick, guys. But yeah, we are drafted. We are done this first draft. And we are with a roster of 3 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 8 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends. So we'll kind of go through my team right here. So I took Puka with my first pick at 4th overall. Pretty happy with that. It's Puka. If he's able to stay healthy, you get one of the top 3 wide receivers in the game, potentially number 1 wide receiver in the game. Let's see, after me, did anything kind of go different? No. So Jefferson goes 9th, Lamb 10th, Cook, Genty, Achan, Love, Hampton, Walker, Barkley, Neighbors, Jacobs, and then Drake London goes just before my pick of Trey McBride, who I also, like I was talking about, I consider a wide receiver 1 if you look at it. So he's another wide receiver I would take. I took there. Pickens Higgins goes, then I take ETN as my first running back off the board. Olave, Josh. So nothing too crazy. I took Mike Evans with my 4th pick, and then Scattaboo. Looking back at the Scattaboo pick, I wonder if I could take. So I could have taken Judkins or Montgomery. Yeah, maybe a David Montgomery pick might have been better, or even a DeAndre Swift pick. Yeah, so I think. Yeah, maybe a little bit more risk with Scattaboo. At least with Montgomery, you know what you're going to get. You're going to probably get the lead running back for the Houston Texans, and I don't think there's qualms about it. Woody Marks was good, but he's not in between the tackles runner. So you know that Woody Marks is going to come on just passing downs. And David Montgomery could also play the passing downs. Maybe a 2-minute drill for Woody Marks. We'll see, I guess, what ends up with happening. But yeah, I think in hindsight, I probably would have taken David Montgomery there as my second running back. I was also in between Lamar Jackson. I didn't mention it on the stream, but Lamar Jackson was somebody I'm looking at as well. I think it's great value for Lamar because Lamar goes the 2nd or 3rd round on all drafts. Last year was a disappointing year given the injury that he had last year with the hamstring, and then coming back and then still not being himself. So maybe that's a bit of coaching. Now there's a change in regime, so maybe that kind of refreshes him and he's kind of back to being Lamar Jackson. But he is getting older, so that's one thing you gotta look at. He is, I think, age 29 season now, and rushing quarterbacks as they get older probably not the best thing. So obviously Lamar Jackson is a wild guy, a different animal, but at the same time you gotta take into account the age and then also the scrambling. So Lamar is somebody I could have probably considered as well. My next pick was Jordan Tyson as just a rookie. Like I said, hopefully he ends up in a good situation. I'm hoping he ends up on the Saints for the sake of this team because I got Tyler Shuck later on. So hoping that Jordan Tyson ends up on the Saints and that kind of creates a natural stack. But let's kind of go through the next few picks I took. Ricky Pearsall, again, if he can stay healthy. I teamed him up with Mike Evans to kind of hope that I can get the Brock Purdy, which I took him my next pick, and get that 49er stack. So I'm just the whole thing with Ricky Pearsall is if he can stay healthy, doesn't get shot, whatever it may be, just stay on the field, man. That's all I need from you. I took Jadarian Price as my third running back. The rookie, like I said, he's kind of looked at as the second running back in this rookie running back class. So I think that I'm hoping that the team that doesn't get on love will take him. And there are some teams out there. Obviously, I talked about the Giants, talked about Washington, KC possibly. You never know. So there's some teams that probably could take him. So I'm hoping that he ends up in a good situation and can come on in the second half and be a contributing member of this team. I took Tyler Shuck with my next pick. Team him up with ETN, but also maybe hoping a Tyson kind of comes there. So like I said, it's wishful thinking. Jalen McMillan is my fifth wide receiver. I took him, like I talked about, came back late in the season for Tampa Bay, had a big game where he got targeted quite a bit. So I think it's very unknown as who's going to get the ball in Tampa Bay. So that's why I think any of the Tampa Bay wide receivers make a good best ball pick, because you just never know which weeks you're going to get the spike. And then for best ball, it's awesome because when you do get that spike week, it contributes to your team. Like I said, for normal fantasy, I think that's going to be a very hard time to really figure out which guy is going to get the ball, unless there's an injury to one of them, and then you know that the ball might be it's a little bit more concentrated in targets. I took Chris Rodriguez, one of the highest risers after getting signed by Jacksonville, and the hope here is that Tootin is not. He's not going to be taking over all the carries. Looks like Liam Cohen is okay with a split backfield, so I'm hoping that Rodriguez is more of the goal line carries, gets the touchdowns. Like I said, half PPR doesn't really matter. Really, all you need is the touchdowns. That's what matters the most. So the touchdowns in this sense for Jacksonville, if it is going to be Rodriguez, who had a pretty good season last year, even though it was limited in nature with Washington. Efficiency-wise, he was pretty good. So I'm hoping that kind of carries over to Jacksonville, that I think will be one of the best teams this year. Not only are they, led by Liam Cohen and a really good offense, and obviously looks like Trevor Lawrence kind of turned around and starting to click now, but they also, I think it's a very underrated note here, is they retained their assistants. Okay, they retained their defensive coordinator who's in demand and their offensive coordinator that was in demand. I know that Liam Cohen is an offensive mind, but that makes a difference, I think, right? I think that the consistency helps and that they didn't get poached. So it's one more year of them coming back. So I think it's kind of similar to like what Detroit did the year before, when Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn stayed on board and they kind of did well. I think Jacksonville will also do that. I took Brandon Ayuk as my wide receiver, hoping gets that release and goes over to Washington as wide receiver 2. Emmanuel Wilson, not sure where he's going to end up in Seattle in terms of if he's going to be the man for the first few weeks until Charbonnet comes back, or if they're going to pick maybe a Jadarian Price, who knows. But I think he's good. If he's going to be the man, he's shown that he was able to do that for Green Bay last year, taking over for Jacobs while Jacobs was injured. He held his own, had some good games. So I think that Emmanuel Wilson, if he's going to be used in Seattle as a starter, I think it'll still be a split backfield. But if he's going to get most of the carries to begin with, that's definitely a good pick. Tank Dell, I kind of probably rushed that. I wanted to take Naylor. They kind of got swiped from me, so I took Tank Dell. I was looking at Chigakwonkwo, but ended up with Tank Dell. It's a big, high risk, high reward pick. You never, poor guy's gotten injured so many times. You've seen all the injuries on TV, broken legs. And so if he can stay healthy, come back and be 80% of what Tank Dell is, that's probably the most you can wish for. But we've seen what he can do with his speed and his ability to catch. So I think him coming back and possibly contributing, being wide receiver 2 on that team. Obviously, they have Jaden Higgins now, so it might be where Tank Dell is only used in special packages. But like I said, we know what we have in there. Just a matter of if he's able to come back from the injuries. Next pick was my second tight end, and that's David Njoku. So I'm hoping that he ends up in a favorable spot as well after the draft, possibly. Maybe even a Baltimore if they don't take a Sadiq or a Stowers. It doesn't hurt to kind of be in that offense as a second tight end. I took Tua as my third quarterback. It's only because I think at that point it was, if I kind of waited or didn't, there's a chance probably would have been gone. I don't think anyone took a quarterback, so maybe it wouldn't have been gone, but it is what it is. Just took Tua as my third quarterback. Just hoping that he goes to the new offense with Kevin Stefanski. Tua still being Tua, not sure how he's going to do, but at the same time, it's a good offense. You got playmakers there. Just got to get him the ball, just like in Miami. And we've seen that Tua is pretty decent. Like, I'm not asking for much as my third quarterback, but maybe some shootout games in that shitty ass division of theirs, and they can put up some points. So I took Najee Harris my next pick. Just hoping he ends up in a favorable spot again. Just hoping that maybe he ends up in a Seattle, or maybe ends up in a Las Vegas Raiders uniform and is in line to split the backfield with Ashton Jeanty. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty will probably take 70% of the carries, but if Najee Harris gets some good favorable looks in the red zone, and get some good quality carries, and if for any reason one of the guys goes down in injury, the other takes over. In this case, I hope Najee takes over, but he's coming off an Achilles injury, so there's always the high risk of maybe not being all the way there. Jake Tonjes, my next pick, is my third tight end. Like I said, Kittle's not coming back till maybe the second half of the year, so maybe let's get some good quality starts from Jake Tonjes as part of my San Francisco stack that I already have going. 8 weeks of him. Like, I already have Trey McBride, but you never know. Some spike weeks could end up happening, and I get some weeks where he outscores Trey McBride, possibly. Never know. Or Trey McBride goes down for injury. Knock on wood. Please don't happen. But then Jake Tonjes is able to kind of step up in the first half of the year. But yeah, my tight end room is pretty weak. If anything happens to Trey McBride, depending on where Njoku or if Jake Tonjes is playing backup to Kittle, it's going to be pretty bad. And then I took Jacoby Lane as my last pick. I was looking at him or Jahan Dotson, who got swiped. Only reason I was taking Jahan Dotson to kind of team up with Tua is now Jahan Dotson is in Atlanta. But Jacoby Lane is a rookie. Let's see what happens. I'm not expecting much from him. I was also looking at Tyquan Thornton. I think that he is going to be the wide receiver 3 in Kansas City. And if Mahomes is able to come back, I think he's going to have a pretty good role there as well. We've seen him come on pretty strong during the season when there was some injuries. So I think Tyquan Thornton, who is a deep threat all the time, is definitely somebody that you can kind of target as your 7th or 8th wide receiver. But that is it, my family. That is the first draft. Like I said, I apologize in advance for just bowing down with my hands put together, just because a lot of going on with the ADP. I'm still figuring that out, and I'm still figuring out the best way to build a team given where players are going to end. Like, I know where I can get players later in the draft. So but I've kind of looked at it, and I've kind of so far my first observation is to maybe take a running back, maybe 2 or 3 in the first. Let's see, I would say first, basically, he kind of ends off with maybe, who is the guy you could probably take? Maybe, probably in your first 9 rounds. I think 9 rounds, you got to take 3 running backs. I just think the way that the running backs go, then you're kind of hoping on your Prosky Maris, Rodriguez, those kind of guys. There's potential there, but you're just not sure. And I think running back, after you might need 3 in the first 9 rounds for sure. So that's definitely something you got to look at, and something you got to think about as you make these drafts right now. I'm going to be This is the start of best ball season. Welcome. This is the debut of this season's best ball drafts. I'm going to have a lot more videos on this best ball season as we kind of get into the season. It's a long 6 months left until the season starts. Maybe not actually 5 months left. So 5 months of best ball drafting. We're going to be posting all the videos on this channel. Please, if you are watching, please like and subscribe, and so that you'll get notifications of when I do post my videos. If you do like this content, but if you have anything to add, please provide some criticism. If you need to provide some feedback, provide some good thoughts, comments, whatever it may be, please put it on the page, and then that way I can kind of go through them and also at the same time improve my process as well. But I definitely love doing best ball. I definitely like sharing some insight on football. And as we get through the best ball season, we'll have interesting picks. Obviously, the draft will change a lot of the ADP as they shift around players. And then, like I said, some of the free agents, like on my team, Njoku, Ayuk gets signed. That's also going to shift their ADP. So, or Najee Harris even. So I do have a lot of wild cards on my team, but not too bad. I think there's obviously a lot of flaws in my team I just picked here. So, but definitely, if you have a comment about what I did right, what I did wrong, please leave a comment on the page, and we'll definitely address it in the next video. But with that, thanks again, everybody. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll catch you in the next one.